Hello. So it's Friday evening and time for another live chat talking about what put my teeth back in, what nature means to you. I had a chat a couple of nights ago with the lovely Mark Oughton, who is a conservationist and lifelong nature lover. If you missed that, then I've posted that on my Instagram page and you can watch it back. It was just a really lovely chat, full of enthusiasm and passion for nature. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to start doing this series of live chats here on Instagram while we're in lockdown here again in England. I wanted to just kind of begin conversation, get conversation out there, people sharing their experiences of nature and what nature means to them. So that it isn't just me chatting, essentially. I said before in my introduction earlier this week that when I lead forest bathing sessions, my favourite part is listening to the participants sharing their experiences and their feelings of what they're experiencing on the session and what nature means to them. And I'm hoping to sort of create that kind of space here as well. So my guest tonight is the lovely Alison Harris. So I'm just going to see if I can get...
Hope this all works. Just waiting for Alison Harris to come join me. Here we go. Hello. Hello.
I did it. Ooh.
Yay.
This is my first Instagram live, so
welcome. It's funny, I think it's only my third or fourth, and I get really nervous every time.
I know, I'm really nervous now. And it's just because it's live, you know, I've done the videos before, but because it's live, I've got sweaty palms. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I suddenly put all my sort of my forest candles and my essential oils to kind of go, okay, calm. So let me briefly introduce you, Alison, to everyone that's watching. So Alison works in holistic wellness, is a coach, a nutritionist, but maybe you can tell us a bit more what you do, Alison.
Well, you're right. Yes, I'm a holistic wellbeing coach, and so I see people on a one-to-one basis, as well as do some, well, you know, when we're not in lockdown, doing workshops and talks, which I really enjoy. So yeah, they're all. I'm NLP trained. I'm an NLP master practitioner, so it's very much around mindset and you know, helping people to greater wellness through changing their mindset, their beliefs about who they are and how they feel and that kind of thing. And, you know, I am a nutritionist as well. So I do offer nutritional advice, but even that, you know, it's still around the mindset really. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Alison. So yes, if people are interested to find out more, they can follow Alison. I'll tag you and everything when I post the video, but this chat really, I kind of am trying to keep them not too long and kind of sticking to a couple of questions. So if we kick off with, what is your earliest memory of connecting to nature, if there is one?
Do you know, I've had a very on-off relationship with nature. You know, when I knew you were going to ask me this question, I thought, yeah, it's really on and off. So I'll try and keep it brief, but there's kind of a roller coaster thing, you know. And I suppose, you know, I was born in the 60s, so we just played out all the time. You know, that's what we did. We just went outside in the morning and we came home at night, you know, and to eat, that's it. So I was brought up in the city and we had no garden. So playing out was just sort of in the backyard or whatever. I was getting lots of fresh air, but I wasn't really exposed to a lot of nature. However, both sets of grandparents lived in the country and both had huge gardens with lots and lots of produce in the garden. So my earliest memories are picking vegetables and fruit and at my grandparents and making pies and making things with all of that fruit. And so yeah, and going blackberry picking with my parents as well. That was a real treat every year. We used to do that. And so, my earliest memories really are around food. It wasn't so much as wildlife or whatever, but it's about, picking food and foraging and that kind of thing. And then really as a teenager, I fell out of love with nature, and just, it wasn't cool to be into nature. And I also moved to London when I was 18. So I got very busy working in London, and it just never really entered my head to think about it. Even though I was working with children, so I knew it was important that children were absorbed in nature, but it wasn't really, it was a job. It was educating them rather than, my relationship with it. And then I had my son in my late 20s, and I was a single parent, so I was quite poor. So actually, it was quite handy to use nature as a way of entertaining him, getting out in nature, because it was free. So we did lots of beach walks, and we did actually start bird watching. That was something he was really interested in. So I kind of got into that through him. And lots of visits to the local nature reserve and nature park and that sort of thing. He was very much, I don't know if you remember Animals of Farthing Wood program. Yeah, well, he was really into that as a young child. So, we did lots of things around that, and around the animals in that story. So yeah, so I was kind of, I had this dabble there really, and did some gardening and grew a few things. And then, he lost interest in that as he got older. I started working, I was full-time lecturer by then. So just lost it completely and just got so busy being Superwoman, I wouldn't have noticed a butterfly or a bird or nothing at all. I was so busy. And that all came crashing to a halt in my late 40s when I got breast cancer. And so everything stopped, everything changed, at that point. And I was very sick during my treatment. And I remember actually one of the things that I was told when I was having my chemotherapy was not to do any gardening, because it was my immune system would be very low. So it wasn't a good idea. It wasn't safe. And I don't know whether it's because I've always been a rebel, but I just thought, I really want to garden. So actually I did. And I found that the more I did that, the more peaceful I felt. I was going through this really scary stuff and I felt terrible. And I had some very dark moments. And when I did, actually being out there in the garden really just had calmed me down. And the more I did it, the more instinctively I felt that's where I needed to be. And it was that winter of that really cold winter that we had of 2010, where it started snowing in about mid-November and just didn't stop. And that was when I was going through the worst of my treatment. And I just used to put wellies on, get wrapped up and go off to the local nature park. And there was something really beautiful and peaceful about being in the snow and being amongst the trees in the middle of winter. And I knew if I was having a bad day, providing I felt well enough, if I was having a bad day, that's where I needed to be. And I just took off and just had a walk around the lake and around the nature park and just made that connection. And I think for me, that was 10 years ago now. And for me, that was the start of my reconnection with nature. And it's never gone away since. And it's just developed, from there. So yeah, a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that though. And I imagine that might be a story that resonates for quite a lot of people, in that connecting and reconnecting, and certainly perhaps with age as well, depending where people grew up, and what access to nature they had when they were younger. And then, as you say, getting to that stage where I think you said becoming superwoman, becoming so busy that you forget any of those perhaps basic needs. And perhaps as a society we've forgotten that, I guess, really. So well, yeah, I guess, because the next question I normally ask, or kind of in the shape of these, has been what nature means to you. And in some ways you've kind of answered that, but I wonder whether there's anything you want to add to that question.
Yeah, I think obviously, yes, nature to me means well-being, and we're part of nature and that reconnecting. So you're absolutely right. And I think, just to add, is that one of the things I realized when I was ill was that I'd been chronically stressed on and off for years. And so I did a lot of research, and which is why I do what I do now. But, you know, I discovered that chronic stress is not our natural state. And that when we're in that state of chronic stress, it just shuts down the immune system, and that eventually we will get sick. You know, it's not just a mental illness to be chronically stressed, it leads to physical illness. And so I think what nature really means to me, if I was to sort of, you know, summarize it, it's when I'm in nature, I'm reminded to be in the present moment, because that's just where nature is. It's never anywhere else, you know. And when we're stressed, we're either in the future or we're in the past, because we're either replaying bad stuff that happened to us, or hurts, or anger, or pain, or whatever it is, which puts us into that state of stress, or we're in the future worrying about something that might happen, and so we have that anxiety about what might happen. And that's all fear driven, whether it's in the past or in the future. It's fear. You know, stress is fear. Even if it's just being afraid, like saying being nervous, being on here, you know, afraid of what people might think of us, you know, which is crazy, but it's a fear. So we all have these things. And yet when we're in the present moment, which is where nature always is, actually most of us, most of the time in the present moment, are completely safe. And so it's that reminder for me that I am safe. And so for just that short period of time that I'm in nature and being around nature and allowing my senses to absorb nature, you know, once we're looking, hearing, smelling, touching nature, we're sending signals to the brain that we're in the present moment and we're safe. And it stops those stress hormones being released, and instead puts us into that state of rest and digest, which is where we should be most of the time. So yeah, that's what nature means to me at the moment, and has done for the last 10 years.
Thank you. I really liked the I am safe, and by coming to that present moment, just that word of I am safe. And that's something that resonates a lot for me on my journey, certainly, but this year in particular, especially during the first lockdown. I'm fortunate where I live, I have some woods near me, and being able to get to that nature space to connect in the present moment. But there also felt a very real sense, because of what was going on, and my perception of that at the time. There was a lot of fear for me then, and being right in the middle of nature, I felt like I literally was safe in every aspect, and there was something so comforting to be held in that way. Which, yeah, so for me this year then emphasised that, which kind of leads me to my next question then. Someone who's obviously now deeply connected and aware of the power of being present in nature, has this year changed anything for you with that, or surprised you, or brought anything new to that connection?
Yeah, just as you said, I'm very aware that you know, we're living in quite a fearful time at the moment, and so I think it's re-emphasised that, if anything, because it's how we react to things. And so, you know, it's, yes, there's this thing going on around us, However, it's that, yeah, but where am I right now? You know, where am I right now? And how can I, if I'm not feeling great, what can I do with that? So it's even more so, you know, it's been much more prominent. And because I, you know, like many people, you know, I've not been as busy business-wise this year, so it's given me more time to explore a bit more. And I've done more foraging this year. You know, I did a foraging course, and you know, apart from picking blackberries, that was all I've ever done really with the foraging thing. And I'm surrounded. We moved house a couple of years ago, and I'm surrounded by hawthorn. And so one of the things I did, and again, you know, it's that connection with what's happening. The hawthorn blossom was out while we were in lockdown, and I read up about it and read about how it's really good for the heart. I thought, well, it's got to be a good thing, isn't it? You know, let's go and get some hawthorn. So I did, and I made it a ritual. Every morning I got up when the hawthorn was out, picked some hawthorn and made a tea, and just sat and drank this tea, which I love. It's really almondy. It's really nice. So just had that in the morning and set myself. So instead of doing what I think a lot of us were very tempted and did, was put the news on first thing in the morning, started the day with all that fear, I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. So it was the hawthorn. And I've since made hawthorn tincture with brandy, and you know, I've added to it now. So I've added the berries to it. So now it's really strong. So yeah, I've done that, and I've looked at other things, and I've got a friend, Charlotte, who may be listening. Hi, if you are, Charlotte. She's helped me a lot with what to forage and what it's good for and stuff like that. So I've done a lot of foraging. I've also, with Charlotte, I've been wild swimming for the first time this year, cold water wild swimming, which is great. Loved it. And yeah, grown lots more vegetables. My husband made some planters, so we've grown more vegetables. So I've been much more immersed, I think, this year than ever. Rather than just walking out there in nature, I've actually been doing more with it, I suppose.
Yeah, working with it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I wonder with that then, as we're, I guess, moving into the winter, another lockdown and some uncertainty as to what that will hold, what advice you might give to others during this time, and especially about perhaps connecting to nature. Maybe there are some people that feel like they can't, or they don't know what they're doing. So what would you say to someone?
Well, you know, I would say, and I know you're a forest bather, and, you know, ultimately that's the thing to do, isn't it? You know, that is that whole sensory thing for 3 hours. And I can't wait, by the way, to come down to Essex and do one of your forest bathing things. It'll happen next year, definitely. So that's the ultimate, of course. But you're right, not everybody can access that. And, you know, especially right now. And yet we can all access nature, and it doesn't have to be 3 hours. It doesn't have to be in a forest. You know, if you've got a garden or a local green space that you can get to, even if it's for 10 minutes, that actually does work. And to be honest, it's better to do that on a regular basis than to go on a forest bathing thing once in your lifetime and then never do anything again. I'm sure you would agree with that, even though you're a forest bather.
Absolutely, yes.
So, you know, and I did a podcast, no, it wasn't a podcast, it was one of my videos not long ago. And I said, you know, I was talking about this, and I said, it's about doing it little and often. So if you can only manage 5 minutes a day, do it for 5 minutes a day. And let me just take it back a bit. Notice how you're feeling, particularly in these times. Notice what makes you feel what. So, you know, the news is very fear-driven. Switch it off. If it's making you feel bad, if you feel anxious, turn it off. You know, you don't need to be attached to it all the time. Social media, turn it off. Get away from your phone. Anything that's making you feel anxious or worried or angry, You know, there's a lot of anger on social media at the moment. Don't engage with it. Just take a breath. You know, that's the first thing. Interrupt that pattern in your mind. This is a very NLP thing about interrupting patterns by taking a breath. Let your body know you're going to do something different. And then go into nature, if you can. Whether it's a green space, whether it's your garden. And you know what? If you're living in a flat or it's in the middle of the night and you've woken up and it's dark, go to your window, open it, gaze at the sky, look at the clouds, smell what you can smell from, you know, if you can smell nature. Anything is better than nothing. So don't sit with it. Don't sit with that fear. Just interrupt that pattern and go to nature. And while you're doing it, if you're doing it just for 5 minutes, either out loud or in your head, say to yourself, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And repeating that when you are looking at nature or hearing nature or smelling nature just reinforces it. And those chemicals of stress will stop being produced as those chemicals of calm and rest and digest replace it. And just keep doing it until you believe it and feel it. And you can do that as often as you want, you know, and the more you do it, the better. And certainly, you know, first thing in the morning, if you can have, like, you know, I said about doing the hawthorn tea, but if you can do something first thing in the morning, even if it's just gaze out of the window and notice the weather, even that, you know, I wouldn't have done that at one time when I was really stressed. I would open my curtains and already I'd be thinking about what I had to do that day and overwhelming my thoughts with all that stuff. Wouldn't have noticed the weather at all. So take a moment, take a breath, tell yourself I'm safe, and then notice nature. That would be my top tip.
Thank you, Alison. That's fantastic. Thank you. I would love to stay here and talk some more, but maybe when we meet in person, we'll do that.
Oh, yes. Yes, I want to try one of your nice teas.
Yes. I've been really enjoying those, yes. Well, Alison, before we go, maybe you can just let people know how they can follow you or go onto your website or see what you do. So if you want to sort of plug what you do, please do.
Yes. So, well, I mean, in terms of social media, I am on Facebook and on here. I do much more on Instagram. That's my main focus these days. So any sort of videos, and you know, I do periodically put little videos out that might help people. So, you know, find me on Instagram. My website is www.alisonharriswellbeing.co.uk. It's if you look on my page on here, you'll find it. I'm in the process of developing some online courses around stress and reconnecting with nature. They're not there yet. I've been procrastinating a little bit on that because I like the face-to-face thing. So, you know, but I am going to get those up and running. They'll be on my website. I'll put them on here as well when I do them. So, you know, it's one way to engage a wider audience. And certainly if anybody, you know, is interested in one-to-ones, I do them via Zoom. So, you know, get in touch if anybody's struggling. So, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Alison. I will try and wrap it up here, just to sort of let people know. I'll post this on my Instagram page so people can watch it back later. And I'm going to try and continue these live chats. I've got next week James Canton, who's the author of the Oak Papers, joining me. I'm really excited about that. Great. I've also got, hopefully next week, Ellen from Nature is a Human Rights Organisation. So talking about human right and access to green spaces.
Oh, great.
So it should be really interesting. And if anyone is watching that wants to get in touch and share their experiences of nature, then please do. But yeah, I'll just say thank you to Alison and thank you for everyone watching.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you.
Bye.